Okay, so I want to talk today about court confirmation sales. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And this is a piece of the business that's pretty well known about, but very few people really understand how it really works, and more importantly, how to make it work for them and their clients or themselves. So the first thing I would say about court confirmation sales is you have to know the rules. And so there are a number of them. The rules are, generally speaking, when a court confirmation of a sale is required, there's a couple things. What happens is sale has to be confirmed by the court. Why might it be confirmed by the court? Because the administrator or the executor of the estate isn't qualified for whatever reasons, or they don't want to and they want the court to confirm the sale for whatever reasons. Then what happens is the court has certain criteria. Basically, a court says, hey, here's how you sell property. Get into escrow, get all your contingencies waived, and then come to court and we'll see if anybody was willing to pay more than you by, in California, 5% plus $500, and they're willing to show up waiving all conditions, and they're willing to show up with a cashier's check for 10% of that bid. So for example, if in court, if the property had sold outside of court or before the court hearing for $500,000, then you'd have to be willing to pay more than that by 5% plus $500. So that's $525,500. And you have to show up in court with a cashier's check made out to the estate, which means you have to know the name of the estate. Cashier's check means you have to go to the bank and get it drawn up. You can't do it yourself. For 10%, so that's $52,500, and be willing to waive all contingencies. So let me ask you, what kind of a sale would normally you be willing to do that? As is, no conditions waived, no inspections, nothing. As is, walking with 10% cashier's check, and be willing to close possibly as quickly as 10 days. Those are the rules. Now, I will also say there are a lot of other rules. And I've been able to make a lot of money by knowing the rules better than the other agent or better than the attorneys do. And in many cases, knowing the rules well enough to instruct the judge what the rules are. In fact, I have on my shoulder a copy of the blue book as the probate code. When I go to court on a bid, I bring it with me. There's certain sections that I go over regularly that protect my commission when it comes time to get paid. And as much as I want to help people, I also want to get paid. That's part of the business. Know the rules. There's a lot of detailed rules. Go regularly and learn. So I recommend, we can't in Los Angeles now because of the court and COVID, and I'm guessing we won't be able to for a while. But I would say that, particularly if you're in a county that allows you to go, I know somebody on this call a few weeks ago said they could get into a court in San Bernardino and did and learned a lot. I would say definitely go. If your county allows you to go into the court and see sales, I would want to watch everyone I could and learn who the parties are, see the attorneys, see investors, see the judges, how they act. I would definitely go and learn. And so you would learn the process. You'd see it in person. You'll see sometimes buyers trying to buy without cashier's checks. You'll see sometimes listing agents not check cashier's checks before the bid. I learned a lot by going. I went every day for a month before I started even listing property to learn the process in LA. And I found the top agents, they were good. They're good agents. They weren't great. They didn't do things that I couldn't figure out, and they were missing some little details. And when I saw all of the process for a month, I could take the best practices from each and create a better system than any one of their individual systems. Most of us do things a certain way over and over again. But if you really go and research all the competition, you'll learn how the best one does each little detail add together to have a better system. So go to court, you'll learn the process. Also, you'll meet attorneys that way. And attorneys just seeing me in court. Now, if you go and you want business from attorneys, you should dress like an attorney. So for men, in LA, for sure, that means coat and tie. For sure. Conservative looking coat and tie, not a fancy one. For women, whatever the equivalent is for women. And you'll see women who wear like dresses or skirts, but they'll put a coat, that kind of look with a coat over it. You should go that way. If you want business from attorneys, when you meet them, you want to look like them. And you'll also see them act in court. You'll see if they're good or not good. You'll see if they need your help or don't need your help. So a great way to meet them. Walk up, introduce yourself, ask them for a cup of coffee, ask them out to lunch. Again, subject to COVID. Judges all the judges are different. You're going to learn how different judges do different things. And I became invaluable to attorneys when I could say, I know that judge so-and-so will allow this because I've seen them do it. Right? That's money. That's something that they can't look it up in a book or get that research. When I was the only person going to court every day and seeing sales personally, I had that advantage over anybody else. And then also you meet the clerks. Now, in general, maybe this is my particular stereotype, government employees to me always act like they're so overworked and underpaid. They might be, but certainly in accounting in general, I'd find that they can be very standoffish. But when you come regularly and make an effort to meet them and show them respect, I found that I could lower those walls and earn their respect, earn their support, get them to cut me a little break on a little information, getting a signature from the judge when needed. So very valuable. If you can go to court, you're going to learn a lot, and if you can meet the clerks as well. Now, I know in many areas of the country, you can walk up and meet the clerk, and they'll become your new best friend. That's not true in LA. And I would say you have to earn your way in on that. Very difficult, hard work to meet the clerks on a daily basis, but worthwhile if you can do it. And then you learn the court, the layout of the court. In LA, we have courts on the second floor and sixth floor, and the research room is on the fourth floor. And just knowing that, could direct people, I could go to the right places, I would purposely walk in a certain way and walk out a certain way to try to catch all the different courtrooms to maybe bump into an attorney. And I would love saying, oh yeah, I'm on my way to this hearing or on my way to that hearing, because I kind of look like them, talk like them, act like them. They're going to assume I know what I'm doing and are more comfortable giving me business. So that's how to get business in the courts. And the other thing I did was I would teach investors the process. And so back before COVID, I used to host a meetup in the LA County Courthouse at Moss Courthouse. And I would teach them the process to meet them and pre-qualify. Some are on this call. Some have been on this call in the past. And in general, the process is, if you want to buy a property, you have to show up with 10% of the purchase price that day in cashier's check format, not personal check, not blank, has to be made out to the estate almost always, not always, but almost always. And you have to be available, ready to close 10 days after the original court order. What does that mean? So when you go to court that day, the attorney should, many times doesn't, most times doesn't, prepare a court order and give it to the judge to sign as soon as possible. In some cases, the judge signs it that day, and you need to close in 10 days. I understand in San Bernardino, the clerk prepares the order on the spot. The judge signs it on the spot. You always get out at the end of the day, 10 days to close. In LA, most attorneys don't know to do the form. They'll wait around for a time, and then maybe they get around to it. They submit it. It's done wrong. Gets kicked back. They redo it. Goes back in. I've had escrows that take 3-4 months because the attorney never got their act together to get the order done properly. So you have a little bit of gap time there that you can count on sometimes, depending on who the attorney is. If I know the attorney has not done a bunch of probates, I'm going to assume they're not going to get the paperwork done right on the first pass. I'll tell my buyer that. And then you have to close. You really do not want to back out on a deal in probate. Why? In general, when you put money down, it goes into escrow. Both parties have to agree to return it. On a probate, you're making a check to the estate. Now, many times, attorneys make a classic mistake. The attorney says, well, we don't have a checking account for the estate, so can you instead wire the money to escrow? And I say, sure, because my buyer is way better off with the money in escrow, which is by definition an independent third party, than they are giving the money to the seller, because the seller is never going to give them the money back. Classic mistake. You also have to close because in a normal transaction, if a buyer and seller are fighting, you have to sue the other party. In this case, they're already in a lawsuit called probate. They're going to go to court in front of a judge. It takes nothing for them to write up an order to hold you in contempt or hold you responsible to close, responsible for penalties, and really the judge can decide. Now, normally they're going to give you a chance to answer. It's not that simple, but still it's a lot easier than filing a whole lawsuit. So I tell my buyers, don't buy the property unless you intend to close. This is not the deal to play around with. Don't go in with contingencies. You got to be clear you're ready to close it no matter what the circumstance is. So that's the basics of buying property in court and why I think it's so powerful.